Alright guys, so this is going to be the how to pull Dane, everything about Dane video. Alright, so bear with me as I go through this. I'll just kind of like talk about some stuff with the intricacies with Dane and then ask questions as they come up, alright? So this is Icewell Keep. Where we're going to fight Dane is going to be right here in this corner. We fight him over here in this corner because it's like the easiest spot to basically to kill him without having to worry about ads and stuff. But you can also fight him like over here in either one of these corners. Basically, the best way that I've seen Dane go is pulling him to the zone in. We fought him before over in the courtyards and stuff, but you have a lot of problems in those courtyards with people being KOS and eating the train on the way back. So once Dane pops, like the first thing that has to happen is these two Icewell sentries need to be like controlled. So either the tank has to kill him, Enchanter has to charm them because they're good DPS, that kind of thing. But either way, like they basically have to be accounted for. So Dane, like on Dane pop, we basically run into his little into his lair. Okay. What you're gonna want is to be in the group with the wizard for a translocate box. So that way you have a TL box. We got Zeldor. Over here, other way. Alright, so Dane is up these stairs on the top floor.
There are stairs on both sides.
Oh, yeah. So, I'm sorry, I just always run this way. Creature habit, I guess.
Yeah, on the progression service, I was the opposite way.
Alright, so you guys have any bone chips, by the way?
Yes.
Can I get a couple, please? Just like 5 or 10 would be good. Thank you. Alright, so first thing to do, so like let's just say Chamberlain Kristoff is Dane, okay? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to run up here and you're going to target Dane, okay? In this case, we're going to use Chamberlain Kristoff. Second thing you're going to do is you're going to put your pet on guard, okay? So you've got Dane targeted, you've got your pet on guard, okay? Next thing you're going to do is you're going to run your ass back down the way we came. Right or left doesn't really matter. Like having your pet guarded, sitting right there in front of Dane, and having him targeted are pretty much the two most important things.
The choice is left up to you.
Exactly. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to run over here to this corner. Alright? Now, don't touch me or heal me or anything, alright? I'm going to show you what happens. So, you're going to have your translocate box, translocate to bind, and then when the raid is ready, you're going to hit pet attack. And so, watch what'll happen. So I did pet attack Chamberlain Kristoff. Now, you guys can just, watch this giant ass train as it comes down here to slay me. So what'll happen is where Zeldor's at now, you're gonna have a bunch of monks all standing around right there, ready to snipe this, ready to snipe Dane out of this train that's about to come out of that door. Once Dane's out of that door, you're gonna see monks grab him out. Now that you see all these guards chasing me,
And there's Chamber.
yep, you hit accept on your TL box, and I'll show you where you're supposed to be bound.
Are you supposed to be bound in Thurg or?
Yep, so I'm bound down here in the bottom of Thurg, and I'll show you where that is real quick. Now the reason why you're bound down here in the bottom is because one, you can't be bound at a raid mob. So like before, people would just bind back up in Dane's room, and they would just get TL'd back to Dane's room. But you're not allowed to bind at a raid mob. So you bind inside his little, or inside the layer, and you take your translocate box back in the layer. Now what that does is that will bring all those ads back in. So you come with me and I'll show you where you want to bind.
Did you guys go upstairs?
Nope, downstairs. Keep coming back this way by the little council room. So the place you want to bind is downstairs in what I like to call the little ice cellar. It's like way down here. I don't know what the actual room is. Lord Master whatever's room, I guess. You bind right here. So what happens is once you see that giant ass train of doors coming at you and you take your TL box, the monks are going to grab Dane out of that train. You're going to take your TL box. It'll bring you back to right here. And the rest of that train is going to follow you down here. Now, as a necro, you can feign death. As a druid, you can port yourself out or whatever. But basically, like, the point of being bound down here and taking your TL to down here is so that those mobs will continue to chase you back down into the castle and will not. It basically gives your monks more time to pull Dane out of that pack, and then for them to flop aggro, /Q, zone out, whatever. Because if you just die like I did, the monks can do it. It just it basically
Good to get a bunch of aggro.
yeah. I mean, there's a potential for it. So let's go back up, and I'll kind of go through some contingencies and stuff too.
This is a really disturbing room.
What contingencies?
It's just full of frozen door.
Yeah, exactly. A little ominous, right? Alright, so we're back here, and what'll happen is, so the time that we pulled Dane over Aftermath, I did it with little E, and I was over here in this little corner, but I didn't have a translocate box because I screwed it up one time, and then the second time I was out of range for the cast. So what I did was I just got myself as far wedged over into this little corner as I possibly could, and basically gave our monks as much time as I could for them to pull Dane out of that train. And I just died in place over here. Like, the things that you want to take into account basically while you're doing this pet pull is where you are in relation to any other guild. So like if Omni Europa is set up over like in this corner where we're at right now, then run your ass over to the other side. You know what I'm saying? Instead of coming over here, you go over to this side. So that way the train runs over here. I don't think we're ever going to see a time where it's like competing guilds on both sides of the courtyard and also at the zone end. It just like Dane gets pulled faster than that or whatever. So, but yeah. So basically, as the pet puller, your job is complete once you hit Dane attack. The Dane comes running at you. The monks pull stuff out of your train, and then you take your TL box down to the little ice cellar, or you die in place in one of those courtyards. And that's pretty much what you need to do.
Now, when you're pulling down to the ice cellar, the ominous ice cellar,
Mm-hmm.
when you start seeing mobs, can you FD, or do you want to just eat that death?
Yeah, you can. So yeah, that's a good point. So FD when you see the mobs, like enter into your into that little cellar, because basically that gives you the most amount of time, or gives the raid the most amount of time to clear aggro on the rest of that train and stuff. If you like feign death immediately after you TL, basically those mobs will reset wherever they're at. So by binding down on the bottom of that cellar, it gives the most amount of time, and then you just feign death. Or as a druid, you can either port yourself out, because there's a long ass cast time with that, or just die in place like a man or something.
As a mage, you die because you don't have the tools.
Yeah, exactly. You do that too. And then, since we're talking about it, I might as well. So the reason why you have a wizard in the tank group is because as the tank is sitting here in this corner fighting stuff, Dane banishes people down to the bottom of the ice well. And so the bottom of the ice well, if you look back to earlier in the video, is the thing in his room where it drops you down below the castle. This isn't quite it, but it's kind of like in the area where you'll see it. But anyway, the wizard's responsibility in the tank group is to continuously make sure that the tanks have translocate to bind boxes. And the tanks will bind themselves right here at the zone line. So I'm Little Lee and I'm tanking Dane. I'm doing my thing, and then all of a sudden I'm banished to down in the bottom of the ice well. Well, you hit your translocate box. As soon as that tank comes back, that wizard needs to give that tank another translocate box.
So how soon after you begin running down, do you have your pet attack the Dane? Because I imagine that there's a lot of people competing to try to attack it.
Yeah.
Uh,
So that's a good question. So it kind of depends on the raid. So it's like you're gonna have like your different, basically like your triggers to for like when the raid's ready. Like do we have enough clerics? Is the tank group set up?
Is there a
Uh,
wizard?
yeah, is there a wizard? Doing translocate boxes, that kind of thing. So like the conditions that need to be met is we need to have a minimum of like 3 or 4 clerics. They don't like. All right, let me take a step back. Um, you need to have a minimum of 3 or 4 clerics that are either in the zone or in Thurg, because by the time Dane gets to camp, like they'll be able to run the CH chain. You need to make sure that we have at least 2 tanks and a wizard within that TL, like in that group for doing the TLs. Um, if
Just out of curiosity,
uh huh.
if we're bound in zone, does gating in zone clear aggro?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you, but
Because if that might be the case, we might not even need a TL box and just a properly.
It doesn't. If you don't zone and you just gate within the same zone, it will not clear aggro.
okay. So that's another thing you can do. The only reason why the TL box is preferred is because it's an instant click. So like you can time it really well. Like you saw how as that train came down, like I kind of like watched it come in and fucking wreck me. Like you can if you time it really well, then you can click gate whenever when it's down there. But the downside to that is like let's say you start casting gate and then like the mobs don't even leave the front of the castle yet. Like the monks really don't have an opportunity to pull Dane out of that train. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just sort of a backup in case we can't get a TL box.
Yeah. I would say if nothing else, your primary backup should just be die in place over in that corner. But either one would work. If you can time it right, you'd be fine. The main reason why you want to wait for a wizard to be like in zone ready to do stuff is more for the tanks because they're going to get banished, and you're going to run out of tanks if all of them end up down on the bottom of the ice well. But yeah, so your basically your conditions that need to be met for you to hit pet attack are wizard in the tank group, at least 4 clerics or so that are either in Icewell or on their way, and then basically like the go ahead from the raid leader, and you're good to go.
I guess there's one more thought. What's the maximum distance for actually being able to send your pet attack? Were you going to be able to do it from that corner, or are you going to have to do it on your way down?
I mean, I did it when I was over there in that corner in the courtyard, so it works just fine. Yeah, I don't know what the max. I don't know if I could do it from zone line or something or whatever. But like, that's another thing too. Like, all right, so last week we saw Aftermath. The guy basically he was tracking from zone line, so he started off, perfectly legal, doing pet track and stuff from here. As soon as he saw a Dane pop, he basically just booked it, ran straight up there, and then got his target, ran back down, hit pet attack, and then by the time, by the time Dane was in here, like they basically did like a running riot or whatever you want to call it. Like, they pulled Dane, with the faith that they would have people in zone, and if they didn't, they would have trained us or whatever. But they ended up getting the kill on a really good, really good strategy with that.
Yeah, it definitely does pay off sometimes.
Yeah. So it's just for as far as like the distance you have to be away. I mean, you can try it. You know what I'm saying? Like, see how far it works or whatever, and then just zone out if you want to want to try that or whatever. But yeah, it's I mean, it's far enough that you can be out of the thing, out of the little castle or whatever.
I don't think your distance matters. I think it's just a pet distance.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that might need to be covered?
Dane's spawn location. I guess I'll run back up there. So most of the time he spawns in his little throne room or whatever, but I think it's depending on time of day. Sometimes he spawns like in his bedroom, which is basically behind his throne. So Dane normally spawns sitting somewhere right here, but sometimes he's sneaky and spawns back in here in his little hangout spot over here. So like if he spawns back in here, it's the same same principle. Get your pet up, make sure you have him targeted, and then like just make sure your pet's on guard somewhere close to him. So either, like up here on his little ice stage near his throne, or, I think, I mean, really honestly, like, as long as your pet is like vicinity where all these dudes are at, like, you're gonna get, he's gonna get pulled or whatever when you do pet attack. It might take a second or two, but it'll happen. Just based off of how your pet paths and stuff. All right. Any other questions or comments or anything? Did I leave anything out, guys?
Yeah, one other question, just a small detail. So after we have the go-ahead from raid leader that we can pet pull, we should run down to that little corner before pressing pet attack.
Ideally, you should already be there. So, like, park your pet, then GTFO. You know what I'm saying? Like, park your pet right here, get your target, and then start running back. And then basically at this point, just be like, hey, pet puller's in position. I'm ready to do the pull. Let me know when you want me to do it. Give me the go-ahead kind of thing.
Sounds good. And then the wizard will be right there, ready to, hopefully having already cast the translocate to bind spell.
Correct. So, yeah, ideally, you get the TL to bind box before you go up there. If that doesn't happen, though, and, like, let's just say the wizard's late or whatever. The wizard is never late. But if if he's not in zone or whatever, you can have your pet parked there and get invited to the tank group real quick. Have that wizard give you your TL box, do your slash pet attack as soon as the raid leader gives you the go ahead, and then run over here to your corner, and then take your TL box. Just like be very cognizant of like where you're at when you hit pet attack, because like let's say you're back here hitting pet attack. Well, you need to beat those mobs out of the gate over to your corner. Otherwise, they're just going to run straight for you. So, like, if you're, like, hanging out over here, just all la-di-da or whatever, like, those things, that train's going to come straight for you. So, like, if you don't hit your TL box just right, then your ass is going to be dead, and there's going to be, like, 50 dwarves that are going to be running straight for the monk that tagged Dane out.
The translocate box doesn't expire?
It does. Anybody know how long it takes to expire? I'm not sure off the top of my head. I think it's a couple of minutes though. It's enough. Let me see if I can Google it real quick.
I was just curious. I've never done the pet pulling on Dane before.
Last 5 minutes.
Okay, so you got 5 minutes basically. That seems like a long time, but yeah. So basically, from time that shit's cast, and you have your little box appear, you've got 5 minutes to hit pet attack, and then have those things come back down, and then hit your TL box. All right. Any other questions?
Next time you do one of these tutorials, I want to bring CA in so I can see where you're talking, just so I can see it. It would help me pull the train. Or
you can head on over now if you want. I mean, if you have a tune that's not parked or whatever, if you want to do it, I'll go back over it with you.
Yeah, well, the monk's parked in Seb for track, so
yeah, I gotcha. Okay. Well, what I'd recommend is whenever Dane does pop today, hang out there, pick your favorite monk, and just shadow him, and you'll be good to go.
My favorite monk?
Yeah, favorite or least favorite, whichever one.
I'm gonna pick the one that has the least chance of getting us dead.
Yeah. Well, all right. So I'm actually gonna post this thing up here in just a second so you guys can see. But what you'll end up seeing a lot is the monks will hang out on this little ice bridge that I'm looking at, or not ice bridge, but the little bridge in front. Basically with like levitate, they'll hang out up there. Just gives them a good vantage point to see. But it's not really. Doesn't really matter so much exactly where they're at specifically, just so that they have a vantage point of, hey, there's Dane, he's coming out of the I guess that's something I should cover too. So if you're a monk and you're trying to rip Dane out of this train that comes down, I think the most important things for you to do is to have your little target macro that says /target Dane. So let's see. So pretty easy setup, /tar Dane, and then like as the pet puller does his thing, and that big ass train is coming out of this those gates right there, you hit /tar Dane, and it will come up with Dane, Frost Reaver, whatever his fucking name is and stuff. And then you just click your mallet, you click your slowstone, you click your root net, whatever it is, and it'll pull Dane out of that kite. Now what happens from there is Dane comes, and then let's just say he gets to about right here. You need to have another monk tag him off of you, and then the first monk flops or zones out, because that first monk will have social aggro on the rest of that train that's running back and forth, just because of proximity and stuff. But the second monk should not. So it's important to have backup taggers and stuff as you go. I can't talk the exact specifics of the monk portion of that, but I'm fairly certain that that's the reasoning behind having multiple monks up here to do that tag and then pull into camp.
He can banish if you only have one monk.
That's true too. Yeah. Yeah. Can you weigh in on that, Imran, please?
What? I just got back.
Sorry, I'm all right. So I'm making a little video right now of the Dane pull, and I'm kind of at the part right now where I'm talking about the monks ripping Dane out of the train.
Yeah, you got it. I was just saying that's why mostly, because he banishes. We've lost them before by only having one tagger up there, and then them getting banished, and then another guild ripping an FD.
Yep. So, all right. So unless there's any other questions, I'm gonna end this thing, and then yeah.
Is it generally only a 2 monk tag, or is it sometimes a 2-3 chain tag?
I'll defer that one to Imran, but you really I'd say the minimum's 2 person tag. Monk is ideal because they can feign death, but really with the zone so close, shit, dude, anybody could tag that thing and then basically just book it for the zone line, and run out.
Just out of curiosity, for tracking, since he can spawn in either room, is it better off just pet tracking from the zone?
It's really just more, call it shooter dependent, shooter preference, if you want to hit a button a shit ton of times a day, you know what I'm saying? Or just hang out in his little area. I'm not sure if he says something text-wise or whatever.
I know that the Shenisol will tell you when it is in session and out of session, so you know where he's going to spawn based on his last message.
Uh-huh.
That's about the best you can do, but you'd have to move back and forth to do it if you're face tracking him.
Okay. So yeah, either way, a couple things you need to keep in mind. So if you're face tracking him, you can't participate in the fight. So if you're past zone line, you cannot participate in the fight. Do not get on the hate list, or whatever you want to call it. Just don't do it. If you start at the zone line, you're pretty much free to do whatever, help out in any way. So, but if you're past the zone line, remember we can only have 2 in guild that are past the zone line at any time. Otherwise, you're disqualified for having more people past zone line, and then you can't get tracker FD. So even if you were up at zone line, did your ring whatever turn in or something, and then ran back to the zone in, you were still the tracker. You can't be a part of that thing. That makes sense?
Yeah, but didn't you say that there was a person in zone who was pet tracking and then he ran up to the...
It's true, but they were pet tracking from the zone, the zone line. You know what I'm saying? So it'd be the same thing having a tracker for Sev at the Field of Bone zone line, and then having somebody race for him. It's that's fine to do. You just can't be past the zone line.
What's happening? What's happening? Hey, it's your boy Lil Jon. I'll pick your meat click. What's up, Phony? What's happening? What's up, Sean Paul? What's happening? Hey, now ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time to turn this thing on out. Now let me see everybody do this. Hey, let's go.